In the unedited video, it's still collapsing several seconds after their misleading edit. You can find out a lot more by watching Screw Loose Change on the internet, a rather nasty point-by-point rebuttal of loose change.
Chris Moore is locally based. He's a natural collapse advocate. Actually, we started at NIST and invited Dr. Sunder out here, and then we were referred to some other official story folks, and we had about 6 invites that went out because we were really trying to open up the discussion. So for you folks that have claimed that we're morally reprehensible, that we should be shamed on because we're airing this content, we are just here to open up the discussion. And you know, when you pledge for the Loose Change video, the director's cut is 99 minutes. We're just seeing a shorter cut for the broadcast, so you will include more material in that DVD. Kevin, we found that this is such a hot topic. There's a lot of different opinions out there in the community. In fact, we've got some polling data that we're going to show you that was done really, I think, the first part of this decade. They need to get out and do some new polls, CNN and Scripps Howard and the Zogby. What is it? Why are so many people skeptical, and what are the biggest issues surrounding the truth movement?
Well, basically, people are skeptical because the official story doesn't make any sense. And there are so many unanswered questions to this day. People may know that it was the 9/11 victims' family members that ended up getting these investigations finally to occur. There weren't going to be any investigations originally, but the 9/11 Commission occurred and the NIST World Trade Center report occurred, and still there are so many unanswered questions. So one of the biggest issues is, how could our nation's air defenses fail for almost 2 hours and none of the 4 planes were intercepted? Another big issue is that our chain of command, our national chain of command, failed. People like the President and the Secretary of Defense were unavailable or ineffective for the most critical hours during 9/11. Not only that, but our defense system and our intelligence system failed, and yet nobody was held accountable. And many people were promoted. And then finally, another big question is, how could 3 buildings be destroyed in an unprecedented way and so much evidence for demolition be ignored?
Well, that's why we're here. That's why we're exploring the issue. 1-800-690-5234. Support us at any level. Support us if you'd like to receive some of the thank you gifts. Let's continue with more viewpoints. Back to Dominic and Leland.
Okay, thank you very much, Sherry. We're, again, very excited to have Leland Rucker here in the studio. Leland, now, you're a journalist. You've been a journalist in this community for a long time. As you looked at the issue with 9/11 and all the stories, there's a lot of information out there. What are some of the flaws that you looked at when it comes to the, I guess, the truth side of the movement? What are some of the flaws you found?
Well, some of the problems that I had is that there's a lot of concentration on the 3 buildings. On the 3 buildings that dropped in New York. But there's nothing about the history of the jihadist movement. Nothing about Ayman al-Zawahiri, for instance, the mastermind of 9/11, who was tortured in prisons in Egypt, like a lot of budding jihadists, before he was tortured by the United States in Guantanamo. There's nothing about the early life of Osama bin Laden. There's nothing about the growth of Al-Qaeda. There's nothing about their plans to attack the United States in the 1990s. These are things that are on the public record, they're part of the public record, and they just seem to be ignored, and I think they're just as important.
Right, and I think that's what's critical about an event like what we're doing tonight, is bringing up all the different sides of the story, because I think you could probably make a list for both sides of that, but the only way we can have the discussion is if you make that phone call. 1-800-690-5234. You help make that happen, and frankly, it feels like a very American experiment. This is why we're all here in this country, why we don't live in another country where here's the one story. We like to have the conversation, the discussion, whether it's a debate about 9/11 or any other controversial issues that you can count on Channel 12 to bring to you. This is a spot for it. It's not easy and it's not cheap. That's why we're here asking for you to pick up that phone call. Pick up that phone and call 1-800-690-5234 or go to our website. There are so many ways you can be part of the discussion. There's polls, there's links to a variety of data, one side or the other. Maybe you're right in the middle. Maybe you're like, well, I don't know. Maybe I do have some questions. There's a lot of different ways that you can be part of the discussion, but the very most important part is for you to get involved. My favorite part, frankly, if you pick up that phone, 1-800-690-5234. We're going to throw it now to, actually, I think we're going back to Sherry, who's going to tell us more about how you can participate in the process. Sherry?
Well, it's pretty easy, and since you're watching this pledge break, I'm sure that you get it. 1-800-690-5234, cpt12.org. You can log on, you can support us there, you can leave your opinion there. You know, this is what it's all about here at Colorado Public Television. The views expressed in this film film are not held by the staff, the management, nor the board of directors. We've just found that there is a lot of questions that are going on in our community for a lot of different people. So right now we're going to take a quick look at Dylan Avery, writer, director, editor of Loose Change.
I made Loose Change because I was pissed off. I was pissed off about what had happened on September 11th, and then I was pissed off about the actions that I saw my government taking in the name of September 11th, the slow erosion of our civil liberties, and the disappearance of everything that I had come to know and love as what I thought America to be. I was 18 years old at the time when the attacks occurred, so I was still figuring out how both the world and my country and even myself worked. But September 11th happened, and I immediately wanted to do something about it. And it materialized in 2002 with a feature film screenplay that was intended to be released before the second election, Bush's re-election, or his potential re-election at that time. It was my attempt to try and change the tide and shape things as I saw fit, and it was my way of trying to change the world.
Let's go to the trade tower again, because, John, we now have what do we have? We don't... Wow.
It looks like a new large plume of smoke.
That's the scene at this moment at the World Trade Center. Dan Daler from ABC's Good Morning America is down in the general vicinity. Dan, can you...
Regardless of how it was done or who was responsible, what happened to the Twin Towers seems obvious enough. They were brought down in a highly engineered, unconventional, controlled demolition. It was a psychological attack on the American people, and it was pulled off with military precision.
You are watching a special Loose Change pledge event right here on Colorado Public Television Channel 12. Thank you for joining us. If you're still watching, you're really excited about having the conversation. Whatever side of the discussion you're on, you're at the right channel at the right time to have both sides of the discussion, and that's what Channel 12 has always been about. I'm Dominic Dezzutti here, part of the Colorado Public Television family. I'm here with Leland Rucker. He is a journalist and web editor with our friends at Free Speech TV. We're very excited to have Leland here. So let's get into it. We've been watching Loose Change for a while. When it comes to the truth movement and some of the points being made, there's the controlled demolition hypothesis. You've done a lot of research on your own as a journalist of looking at all the different resources, both sides of the coin. What do you think about that hypothesis?
Well, that isn't exactly what I see, but then again, I'm not a scientist. Mm-hmm. I'm not somebody who is an expert on how buildings fall.
Right.
And I'll leave those physical arguments for other people. But I've also not seen any buildings that have been hit by two airplanes and then had the fire happen. So I've never seen that either. And I have to say that I've read scientists who believe in the controlled demolition, and I've seen other scientists who don't believe in controlled demolition at all. So it's not really a closed argument yet. A lot of people feel a lot of different things.
And I think you've hit the nail on the head. A lot of people feel a lot of different things. They think a lot of different things. That's what's great, frankly, about our country. That's what's great about Channel 12. What makes that happen here at the station? It's not just someone's great idea here. It's because of your support. It's your input. Call the number at the bottom of your screen, 1-800-690-5234. Help us continue our over 30-year tradition of bringing all voices to the table, whether it's the 9/11 discussion, whether it was about animal rights, homosexual rights, health issues, food issues. You can count on all voices being heard at Channel 12. Why? Because of your support. When you call the number at the bottom of your screen, 1-800-690-5234. And again, this is a pledge event. This is where we're asking for support. You're seeing on your screen some of the great ways that we can thank you for your support. We've got a variety of ways we can do that. We're very excited to share those with you. And I think right now we're going to be talking to our friends across the studio, Sherry and a special guest. Sherry, take it away.
I'm here with Kevin Ryan, our special guest from Indiana. He's a chemist and 9/11 whistleblower. You know, if you just tuned in, maybe you caught last year, Channel 12 aired 9/11 Press for Truth and 9/11 Blueprint for Truth, and boy, did that stir up a lot of controversy. Kevin, we heard from folks all over the country. We even heard from folks from New Zealand and Germany and England, and so we pulled back a little bit And then we wanted to come back with this content because our research has shown that a lot of people do have a lot of different questions, but we're trying something completely different right now. We're opening up the discussion. We've got different viewpoints in this pledge break. In fact, somebody had called in and said that they were upset that we were even airing the program. Somebody else called up and they said that they heard one viewpoint and they were agreeing they were going to call in, and then they heard the other viewpoint and now they're not going to call in. You missed the point. What we're wanting to do is get you to support independent public television that opens up the discussion, that takes risks, that's ahead of the curve, and that is in your own backyard right here. So this is important television, people. We want you to get out, do your own research, make up your own mind, but become part of the discussion right now. Become part of Colorado Public Television. So Kevin, controlled demolition, really, that's what it's all about. Blueprint for Truth, that is exactly what it is about. Why is the controlled demolition hypothesis better than the official story and the official story hypothesis of how those buildings came down?
Well, one reason is that our government scientists spent 7 years trying to provide a non-explosive explanation for what happened to these buildings, and they were not successful. They did produce 3 reports for 3 buildings, but those reports are totally unscientific, and they are based entirely on computer models, which are not they're not able to share with us. Another reason is that
Hey Kevin, we've got World Trade Center Building 7 coming down. We've got the comparison there. You can see how the World Trade Center 7 came down, and then there is an example of a controlled demolition, so you can see that right there on your screen.
Absolutely.